Yo, what's going on today, guys? Welcome back to Bar4Bar. It is episode 4. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bender. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support on the first 3 episodes. As always, you guys have been fantastic and checking those out and whatnot. So because of that, we're actually going to make a slight schedule change. There will now be two episodes of Bar4Bar every week. You'll see one on every Tuesday at 4 o'clock p.m. and every Friday at 9 o'clock p.m., both in Eastern Standard Time. I did say on a lot of my socials Saturday by accident, so I apologize for that. That's my bad on that part. But I really am excited to get back into this and do 2 a week. You guys are loving them, and I'm obviously loving it because this is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. I love talking hip hop, and I always will. But now, with no further ado, let's get started, guys. So once again, we've reached that time of year where hip hop fans get to vote on a XXL freshman nominee into the 10th spot on this year's list. The voting did close recently, but we have not been announced any of the 10 freshmen. Double XL, I do have to point this out though. Double XL has always been so good at marketing their annual freshman list in a way that kind of like makes it a national headline, makes it, really important and significant in the eyes of hip hop fans and in the hip hop community. They even all the nominees get like a chance to give their pitch on the XXL YouTube channel, explaining why they think they should get the spot, kind of giving what or telling what sets them apart, so on and so forth. And obviously they're put into cipher groups, which is obviously the most prominent part of all this is the double XL ciphers. And they also do all their own individual freestyles. And just to give you guys some insight as to how popular these things are, the 2016 double XL, it was a group with, it was 21 Savage, Lil Uzi Vert, Lil Yachty, Kodak Black, and Denzel Curry. I don't know. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, right? No, I'm not. So, but basically, they were put into that group. 2016 Double XL freshman class. They all did their cipher. That cipher has, I think, over 150 million views on YouTube now. That's insane. The people kill for that content, and it's entertaining and also just really insightful. Less of the other content is into their artistry and their mindset. But anyway, and of course, all this content, in addition to the manner in which they portray it, has really contributed to this being a big deal again in the eyes of the hip hop community. And so today, I just want to take some time to kind of sit back and tell you guys not who I think will be it, because that's a totally different conversation. But if I had to pick the 10 artists that I think are most deserving of the 10 spots on the Double XL freshman list 2020. So let's get started with that. Being said, my first pick is Lil TJ. He's a vocally driven hip hop artist from the Bronx, and though I was not particularly impressed with his debut project, True to Myself, TJ really does have a super unique, silky smooth singing voice, and I think it's underappreciated for going well with a really decent variety of instrumentals. He's done much more somber, laid back piano driven tracks like Sex Sounds, all the way to featuring on Polo G's hit single "Pop Out," where it's much more trap banger based, and he can do it. He can do it all. He's very versatile, and I think that versatility is going to take him a long way. Like I said, he has had impressive features such as Polo G's "Pop Out," French Montana, "Slide." He was on the hook of that. Pop Smoke's "War," rest in peace. That's just among others. That's just among many others, and I think he's got a lot of versatility for doing a lot of different types of working with a lot of different types of artists, a lot of different instrumentals in hip hop. If Lil TJ is able to utilize his voice, however, and his talents in a wider variety of ways for just 10, like 12, 15 tracks, 10, 15 tracks, then an LP from him has the potential to be really, really enjoyable and very memorable, I think. Again, True to Myself was not his most impressive work and didn't really do justice to the talent I know he has because it was so underwhelming. I did enjoy several tracks off of it, such as FN, The Brothers remix. One Take is pretty good. I enjoyed several Sex Sounds. Several of them off there were very enjoyable to me, very pleasing. But again, I just really want to see him, sit down, grind out a 10 to 15 track LP. That was what was it? Yeah, it was 17 tracks, I believe. True to Myself was 17 tracks, and I think honestly, I think he should go for a shorter one. I'm thinking 10 to 12, just because, it's gonna drag on otherwise. And I think if you keep the shorter and sweeter you keep it, I think the better chance you have of just hitting home with a big LP if I'm Lil TJ. But my second rapper today is gonna be Sada Baby. You guys may or may not have heard of him, but Sada Baby is a Detroit rapper, and honestly, he's one of the lesser known artists in Detroit's hip hop scene, but also one of the most talented. He doesn't get talked about as much as his fellow natives, like the Big Sean's, the T Grizzlies, the Danny Browns, the Eminems, the Royce the Five Nines. It goes on. The list goes on. But in his music, Sada really matches his energy. I feel a lot of his contemporary natives are already praised for. Danny Brown, like you listen to his delivery, he is so it's chaotic at times, especially if you listen to something like you know what I'm saying, his most recent album. I think it's a great example of that. But Sada has really just energetic, charismatic delivery and vocal performances when he's spitting on there, and I think that is actually good. That should definitely elevate. Well, it might not set him apart in the Detroit hip hop scene because we have so much of that, but he has his own unique style to it. He has a very raspy, unique voice, and regardless, I think he could definitely like emulate the success of his contemporaries, especially in the city of Detroit. He definitely has that potential. He's beginning to break through to the mainstream, especially with collaborations like Next Up with T Grizzly. He's done the track with King Vaughn. That's the name of it. It's slipping me. But he did. I will say he unaffiliated himself several months ago with T Grizzly's group of friends and frequent collaborators. Usually just called Grizzly Gang, as far as I know. And so because he wanted to start beginning establishing his own individual like unique brand, and obviously it's all in taste. But I gotta say, Sada Baby since then has made some really good singles. I think this is I think since leaving, this is some of his better music, and I have to say like I'm really impressed. And I'm really excited for his future, and that's why I think he should be one of the spots. And speaking of King Vaughn collaborations, number 3 is King Vaughn. Yes, the breakout Chicago trap artist, King Vaughn. He turned heads in, I think it was 2018. He released his breakout single, Crazy Story. The single really just showcased Vaughn exercising a slick, dynamic storytelling ability, which became a cornerstone for a lot of his music to follow that. It's still, even like aside from the remix of Crazy Story 1 and then Crazy Story 2 and 3, or jeez, we're gonna get like 5 shot of flows and then 5 crazy stories. Comment which one you guys will think would come first. But anyway, Crazy Story he's a really talented storytelling artist, which I think, especially in the Chicago scene, is kind of lackluster at times. So I think it's a really cool spark, especially to the local scene, that I think is being taken very good, not only by Chicago hip hop fans but by other hip hop fans in other cities. I've been put onto him by people from Cleveland that they have no relation to Chicago, but they heard him coming up in the underground, even prior to him hitting mainstream anyway. He's also become good friends in the past with Lil Durk, who's now one of his most, if not his most frequent collaborator. And as a matter of fact, Lil Durk's on a Crazy Story remix and also appears on both of his first 2 projects, especially once or I think twice on the last one, which was LeVon James. But they did. What's funny is they actually have a court order to not be in the presence of one another. Lil Durk and King Von got in some trouble back in the day, and I guess they cannot physically see each other in person. It's funny because I was watching a interview on No Jumper, shout out Adam22, but King Von was on there, and he was talking about, he's like, yeah, the only time I get to see my best friend is in court, and it sucks because they have really good chemistry on tracks. I think they go very together, especially although Lil Durk is a bit more vocally based. They mesh very well together. But then again, Vaughn is signed to Durk's record label, Only the Family Entertainment. So I even despite the distance, I can definitely see the collaborations keeping up, even if it is long distance. Just sending in recordings, sending in beats. There's very little, and also they're just best friends. So like I don't doubt that somehow they'll still keep making music. But Vaughn has a clever way of delivering bars that many have heard before, but not in his vigorous, like, attention-grabbing manner. He has such dynamic delivery that really just like commands the attention. And I've said this before of the over the instrumental of the audience. And the only thing I will say, my only critique of Vaughn is his beat selection is very hit or miss. Even Crazy Story itself, like the beat is not that impressive. What really compensates for is Vaughn's flow over it and immersive storytelling ability. And I think if he experimented with more instrumentals, that maybe might be a bit outside his comfort zone to begin with, he has an increased chance of mainstream success to me. It just makes sense. So, but although he has already hit, the trap mainstream scene, and I really am excited for what's to come from him because we just got this project. I enjoyed several tracks off of it, and yeah, we'll see when the next one is. But number 4 on this list is DDG from Pontiac, Michigan. The YouTuber turned rapper, and honestly, one of the only good YouTuber turned rappers, might add. Okay, sorry, excuse me. I must have a cough or something, coronavirus. But a very versatile talent with a good ear for music is my thoughts on him. I think he's actually I think he can do a lot over a variety of instrumentals and styles. He can do slower tempo songs with a lot more I guess I should say substance to them, such as arguments, as well as faster paced bangers like "Run It Up," which had like YBN Amir, G Herbo among others on that track. But he really has the potential to break even further into the mainstream, if you ask me, if he just finds his sound. He's so indecisive on what kind of appeal he wants to shoot for. I think it would do him a lot of good to pick one and stick with it. I mean, obviously you can step outside your comfort zone occasionally, but within reason, of course. I've seen some tracks where he's trying to do something instrumentally or artistically or sonically that I just don't get, and it has no good sound to me. It has no appeal, in my opinion. So yeah, I really do think he has the potential to break through farther into the mainstream, like I said, but he really just has to kind of find his lane. He needs to find a sound, like a lot of other artists I could say that about. Speaking of finding sound, one of the only artists I think who has already found his sound is number 5, 16-year-old artist from Cleveland, YSN Flo. Flo began making noise in the underground scene with his breakout hit single "Want Beef," which is actually still his most streamed and most watched music video to date. On the 10th of this month, he actually released his debut mixtape "Flow Season," which included features from other guys who were nominated for XXL. Freshman Justin Rari and, again, Lil TJ. Flo, he has a very melodically based style delivery, and it gives him a lot of it gives him a lot of credibility, a lot of potential to break through in the mainstream and also in the street scene. He has lyrics in certain songs where I could imagine someone in the trap bumping this, whereas there's someone else in their whip could be riding around just bumping it. He has the potential to kind of go through both tunnels there and break out. And I think that's something really unique about him. Again, I think he might be the only artist on this list who just really knows his appeal and his sound. He knows that his melodically based style delivery it's his lane. It's very much what he thrives in. It's very much where his music is good. Obviously, I don't know. I don't even know because we haven't heard it. Him trying to switch up, to something just straight bars quicker. But I don't know. Well, I guess time will tell because obviously he's only 16. He has a lot of potential to be something great, be someone really truly in the midst of the mainstream. But that's all I got for him now. Number 6 on this list though, Guapdad 4000. Guapdad 4000, if you guys haven't heard of him, is an Oakland singer-rapper. He's actually pretty heavily associated with Dreamville, J. Cole's record label. And that's mainly because he's in Zoint Gang, which is, I guess, a hip-hop group that I haven't heard much of. But it includes him, JID, probably know that name, Smino, might know that name, and Buddy, who's also a Dreamville signee. He was actually featured on a few tracks on Dreamville's Revenge of the Dreamers 3 collaborative efforts. And by the way, he did. I know he did the hook to Costa Rica, and among other tracks. He was on Wells Fargo, a few others. But he did very good on that project. His voice is really reminiscent of Tory Lanez, which is funny because he has a track with Tory called "Stuck with It," so it sounds somewhat similar. But they both have that smooth, high pitched voice you'd imagine hearing of like a DJ Mustard party anthem. Something along those lines. But I see Guapdad as being a little more lyrically talented than his contemporaries. And I guess even maybe Tory Lanez with similar styles. And I think he's a bit more versatile, at least as versatile as many of the rappers that are similar stylistically to him. So I think he's definitely a standout from the bunch, and I really am excited for what he's got in store. Number 7 on the list, guys have probably heard this name before. Jack Harlow. Jack Harlow is from Louisville. He's 22 years old, and he is most known for his Billboard hit "What's Poppin'." What's Poppin'? Brand new, we just hopped in. You know that one. It was released as the first single, actually, off his 7-track EP album. I don't even know what it is. It's supposed to be an EP, but his label is an LP for some reason. Sweet Action. He actually collaborates very frequently with Jetson Made It. Who's also like the go-to producer for The Baby, also a Double XL freshman from last year. He's a very talented rapper with huge potential for long-term mainstream success. And I think he has a lot of mainstream appeal stylistically as well. And his beat selection, I think his beat selection is fantastic. And I think because him and Jetson Made It, I know, collaborate very often in person. I've seen a lot of, videos or photos of them in the studio together. So creatively, the chemistry is there. And I think they know exactly how to work with each other best, which is fantastic. I will always preach for that organic sound you get working with someone in studio, in person, as opposed to sending over a verse or sending over a beat. I will always take that. Not only is there like somewhat of a mixing like quality difference, but also, I mean, you just need to put your heads together and do this creatively over something, not a phone. I will always preach for that. Obviously, the coronavirus is making it very hard. I know a lot of rappers are not doing anything in person with other artists. But regardless, I will always take that any day of the week. And he's a very unique talent. Like I said, he takes a very non-traditional approach to track production. And it's not because he's white, trust me. It's because his style, his delivery is very laid back, but also just kind of dynamic and bombastic in his delivery. I know, big man being word right there. But I'm really excited to see what Jack Harlow has in the future, because this is very much him just scratching the surface. I've listened to a lot of his older projects. He has talent, and I've been following for a while. He's been busting his ass, and honestly, I'm really happy to see his mainstream success kind of finally come to light. And also, What's Poppin', I gotta mention, was his first Billboard hit. I think it cracked at peak. I think I cracked 48 at peak. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but What's Poppin' was a huge hit, especially on TikTok. I mean, that was a huge TikTok hit. So again, kind of playing along what I said, he has a lot of mainstream appeal, a lot of commercial appeal, and I'm really excited for what he has next. Number 8 on this list, you guys. This is of all the artists on this list, this is the one I feel like most people haven't heard of. Tyla Yahweh. He's a singer-rapper, again, from Orlando. He's known primarily by most who do know him for his minor hit High Right Now, which actually, fittingly enough, has a remix featuring Wiz Khalifa. He mixes soothing R&B inspired instrumentals with very smooth, mellow vocals. He doesn't sound like he's putting a lot of effort into it, but it's like very, very low key. Again, very mellow. I really like his vocal delivery and kind of in partnership with the instrumental. He has a voice. I kind of like to say is he has the voice worthy of a love ballad, the lyrics of a druggie. Kind of like, I do have to say, although they are not at all, don't get this twisted, they are not at all stylistically or talent-wise, similar in that regard, but Yahweh lyrically is kind of reminds you of The Weeknd. You're delivering very dark, drug-filled, party-filled lyrics, but in such like a silky smooth way. It's something I can listen to when I'm in my tender mood, but also turn up to at the club. I don't know, man. It's super unique, and I really fuck with it. I really fuck with Tyla Yahweh. If you guys haven't checked him out, I would absolutely recommend him. He has several projects out already, as far as I know. But number 9 on this list, we're reaching the end, guys. Houston rapper and singer Don Tolliver. You guys probably know him best because he is signed to Travis Scott's Cactus Jack record label, which is under Atlantic Records, as you may know, as Travis Scott and Don Tolliver are both from Houston, Texas. Tolliver first attracted attention and turned a lot of heads with his standout feature on Travis Scott's Can't Say track off his 2018 release that lots of people know and love, Astroworld. Don Tolliver has really, really impressive vocal range. He has really unique delivery in contrast to other auto-crooners, and actually already has a first project that was actually pretty good in my opinion under his belt, Heaven or Hell, which I think was released maybe a little under a month ago, give or take a few days. But I really see the potential for him to hit the mainstream even harder than he has now, because obviously he has that super heavy label support, as well as Travis Scott's co-sign, unpredictably bright potential, and a first studio LP already on his resume. Don Tolliver is an easy pick for this one, dude. He is going to be a stud. He's going to be around his game for a while. He's one of my favorites on this list of all the 10. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what's to come from him. Probably won't get a new project for a while because, again, it just came out a month ago, roughly. But yeah, I'm really excited. And finally, at the number 10 spot on this list, we have, on the rise, Chicago trap artist Polo G. He's best known for his Billboard hit Pop Out featuring Lil TJ, like I mentioned earlier. It peaked at number 11. Almost cracked the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Polo hit the mainstream a while ago with his breakout single Finer Things, which was a very, low-key, ballad-sounding song. Almost like he's talking to the audience in, like, a way that, like, I can relate to you on the struggles of growing up in an impoverished neighborhood with not a lot to you. Not a lot in your possession. Again, Finer Things was not the it was the 8th track on his debut studio album, Die a Legend, which came out the same year under Columbia Records. Die a Legend, by the way, I gotta say, it was a really impressive mixtape, or a really impressive studio album. I really enjoyed several tracks on there. There was Pop Out, Through the Storm, several others that I was really, Chosen One, that I was really a fan of, that are still playlisted to this day. Polo G and his music, from what I've seen, and from just listening to all his music and digesting it, he aims to connect with the streets a lot. He has very heartfelt yet street-appealing lyrics, and much of his music not only deals with his own pain and struggles, but is also cleverly worded at times to kind of just feel equally as applicable as a listener. I could be a white privileged kid, with the like I am, honestly, but I could be that and not have any understanding of what the street life is like, but I feel like a personal connection in his music for some reason. I feel like I am being dragged into this life in a way. I get like a very vivid picture of what's going on and what he's going through, what he's feeling. And he does a very good job at that. That's really good artistic ability, really good artistic illustration in his music. For example, like I said earlier, the hook, The Finer Things, conveys a perspective in which Poe's talking directly to the listener. He has several other songs I could say the same thing about. He is not, I will say, despite what people say, he's not the most talented melodically, in my opinion. But his style, his very unique, style of lyricism and songwriting in general is going to be a really fundamental tool in helping him, kind of develop a really cult following in the years to come. I can definitely see that being the case. Polo G has that personality, has that music type that I think can really bring in kind of a cult following in the years to come, especially not even just in the Chicago neighborhoods, but just nationally. But yeah, those are, as mentioned, my 10 picks for the XXL freshman class. Again, to be clear, not my predictions, but who, if I could pick, would be in there. And to wrap it up today, guys, I want to give a talk about Drake's newest single, Tootsie Slide. It came out about a week and a half ago. It's a very, R&B, dancehall-esque track, and it's inspired off Tootsie, who's an Atlanta dancer, social media personality, and it's inspired off Tootie's dance routine that he's already invented for it. As far as my thoughts on the track itself goes, it's such a forced attempt at creating a viral TikTok song. The track was honestly mid. I gotta say, it was a mid track at best. Drake couldn't sound more low effort if he tried. His vocal delivery is as uninteresting as I've ever heard from him, and the production is just as underwhelming as could be. It feels like it's missing something. But to get to what I want to talk about, particularly with this track, it's honestly, from first glance, a very safe bet and a very clever business move. Drake recorded a single that has a dance affiliated with the song's hook. What does that mean, do you think? TikTok is going to eat that song up, which would in turn increase streams and promote much more viral popularity for the track, which I'm not even gonna mention Drake, because I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like Drake doesn't already have that and have a dedicated fan base that is going to listen to him coughing into a microphone if he wished. But that track is just it's created for TikTok. The entire track was created so that TikTok could eat that baby up, dude. And it was a fairly Again, it's a fairly simple and straightforward recipe just to make a hit to increase streaming numbers. Um, and obviously Drake being one of the biggest rappers on the planet, his status alone is going to be is kind of expected to push the single to do crazy numbers already. But to explain what the actual results of Drake's apparent attempt to sell out, I referenced some statistics from a Complex article covering this topic in a somewhat similar fashion. So, oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. But Drake's attempts, it didn't even produce anywhere near the expected results. As of April 7th, Tootsie Slide hasn't even cracked TikTok's trending page, nor has it even hit 100,000 videos. It has now, but at that point, which was I think 5 days upon the track releasing, that's obviously for any other song, for any other artist, that's huge. That's really good. That's crazy numbers, but for Drake, I definitely wouldn't say so, man. Again, a lot of videos, but just for reference here, that is 1/7 of the amount of videos that were generated by a Lil Keed song, Snake. Snake by Lil Keed has 7 times the amount of videos based off that. Now, if you ask me, this definitely flopped for one big reason, which is what I'm here to talk about today. A lack of content variety allowed by the single itself. Let me kind of expand on that a bit. The dance Drake is instructing in the hook of the song is very set in stone in terms of procedure. As much as it already sounds like I'm overanalyzing it very much at the very beginning of this kind of explanation, think of it this way. TikTok users are very well known for utilizing trends in an original and creative manner. In other words, they add their own spin to it so it grabs the attention of users on the app. You're scrolling through your feed where you have it filtered down just to Tootsie Slide videos. If every video is the same goddamn dance as the last, maybe just different people, different place, maybe done better than others, but there's no way everyone's going to go through 15 straight videos of people doing just the same shit, unless you're just psychotic or are incredibly bored in quarantine, and even then, that's you got better things to do. But it just gets repetitive. It gets monotonous very, very quickly. This track is, by default, quite literally a once you've seen one, you've seen them all type of trend on TikTok. Basically what I'm saying, in summary, is that I don't know about you guys, but you will never catch me sitting on TikTok for half an hour watching a series of videos that essentially showcases the same dance in each one. It gets repetitive. It gets monotonous. It's just, this is not something that was thought out all the way through. And if I'm Drake right now, I'm mad. I'm upset. No pun or reference intended. But I'm upset at myself for not seeing things all the way through and not having a more, complete, thorough understanding of TikTok's appeal and algorithm. This is how it's been since the app, really just hit popularity. And no excuse for poor mixing, like I said earlier, man. You got an entire promotional marketing team behind you. How did no one see this through? How did no one really just kind of point this out as wait, but X, Y, and Z are in place? It's not my problem. It's Drake's problem. Even then, it's probably not his problem. That dude has money coming out the wazoo, so I don't think he's too worried about it. But anyway, that is going to be it for today's episode, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and once again, for all the love, support, positive feedback lately, all the constructive criticism, any of that is all appreciated. Next episode will be out this Tuesday, April 14th at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I will let you know if there's any updates to that. That's tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow. We got a great episode tomorrow as well. Thank you once again. I will see you Tuesday. Once again, this has been Jack Bender, host of Bar4Bar. Peace out, guys.